Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice. My guest today is an amazing woman. She is smart, she is beautiful, she is talented, and I'm so excited to interview her today so that you can get to know her. Her mission to serve has taken her from the ghettos to Guyana, from the shelters to shut-ins, from Fort Mac and back. She is committed to being the change she wants to see happen in the world. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Cynthia Stone. She is a global best-selling author, a celebrity speaker. She is an NLP practitioner. She is a relationship coach. She is a mentor. And I've had the pleasure to interview her before on the Magnetic Entrepreneur podcast. And I had so much fun that I decided to bring her on Dela's Voice. So please help me welcome on Dela's Voice, the beautiful Dr. Cynthia Stone.
Yay!
Hello.
Hi.
Did I do a good job?
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I'm like, can I have it come with me everywhere? I love
it. because if the introduction is not good, I'm just afraid that my guest would leave.
Peace out. Oh, there we go.
So thank you for being here, Dr. Stone. I'm so excited to interview you today. And we had so much fun on our last conversation. You're so smart. You're so funny. And you're so down to earth. I just had a blast. So welcome. And I want to welcome whoever's watching this show. Please go ahead and press that like button, the thumbs up. And share it with your friends, because this is going to be a hoot. I promise you it's going to be lots of fun. You're going to get so inspired. You're going to learn so much, and you're going to be motivated to do better for your own life. So here, I'm going to hand over the conversation to you. But first, I want to ask you, Cynthia, please introduce yourself to people, because obviously you were born with all these titles, right?
Oh, of course.
So where did you start? Where do you come from? And how did you get here at such a young age?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, good questions. I mean, it's funny you mentioned down to earth. I'm so down to earth. My dad's name is actually Clay Stone. Wow. Like, true story. Oh, it's so fun. I definitely did not actually grow up with these titles. I know, shocking, right? So when I started off, I was like a lot of us, lost like a fart in the wind. What do I do with my life? Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? And I noticed that from a young age, I was very empathic, and I would feel people before I even saw them. And that was a bit strange, because I would be like, why am I crying? I'm not even sad. And I realized that I was picking up on other people's emotions. And it's a beautiful gift to have if you are an empath. And I think a lot of us, by our intrinsic nature, are that. But sometimes we suppress it. We bury it deep inside. And so what I noticed is that I couldn't bury it, that it was so much a part of me that I was just drawn to people to heal them, to alleviate their suffering. And whether that meant that I was there with the kids that were being bullied and, trying to be their friend, even in the midst of all this craziness, or, whether I was, working with the homeless on the street corners, because I was just like, you know what, I want to serve the people that society doesn't want to touch. The people that need the most love were the ones that I was most drawn to, because I'm like, they need the most love. And so that prompted me to go to all these places, like you had mentioned, from the ghettos to Guyana, from homelessness to Hollywood even, and just really, working to do my part. And as I started working in the field of social work, which is where I thought I was supposed to be, I actually started off in psychology. And I was like, no, this isn't for me, because it was all about, labels and pills. And I'm like, no, a pill for every ill, no thanks. And not to say that there isn't a great deal of remedying that can happen with that. It just didn't speak to my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so I don't want to do that. What do I do? And then my dad came home, Clay Stone himself, and had a brochure for his school that he worked at, George Brown. And it said something about community work. And I'm like, what is community work? And I noticed that it was all about leadership, and it was all about mobilizing communities. And like a lot of the people that I aspired to be like, the Gandhi, Jesus, the people that were leading, people from troubled places into the promised land, it really spoke to my soul. So I was like, oh yeah, let's sign up for this one. And they were like, really? Are you sure? My parents were like scratching their head because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. You're supposed to be a lawyer or a doctor. So
Sure.
And so I was like, well, this is what I feel compelled to do. So I ended up going into that, loved it, and was addicted. Like I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. And speaking of addictions, that led me into addictions, because I realized that deep within all of us is a leader. But in order for us to be a leader, we have to be a leader in our own lives. And so what happens is a lot of us are in a state of misery because we don't even like our own company. And that will lead us either to aversion or addiction. We're either running from ourselves or running to something else. Mm-hmm. So I got into addictions, and I was like, okay, and this way I will be able to, learn about how to help people conquer these addictions so that the addictions don't run their lives. And when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such great stuff, but I still want more information. Like, how can I better serve people? And that led me to go on to become a Bachelor of Science degree holder. And then I went on to be a master's in social work. And then I was awarded the doctorate in humanity for my work advocating for people without voices. And I ended up going on a success resources journey, which is all about personal growth and development, which is where I got my NLP certification, my mastermind facilitation, and a lot of that type of studying. It was amazing. I mean, as we heal ourselves, other people are healed, so it's all about investing in your personal growth and development. And, like photography, we develop from the negative. So I was just like, wow, all the issues are in the tissues, like, how can I be able to serve people if I can't even like heal my own wounds? And we all have them, so it was recognizing that a lot of the people that I was in social work with, for example, were like, oh, I'll work with this population, but not that population. And I'm like, well, if we're healers, shouldn't we be able to heal anyone? And why are we picking and choosing? Which usually means that there's something that we're avoiding. And so I'm like, okay, I need to be aware of my blind spots, because chances are, even as much as you try and pick and choose your population, there's going to be an area where you're triggered. And if it doesn't happen in your career, it may be happening in your relationships with your loved ones, like whatever we repel is something that is inside of us that we don't want to face. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, I need to face all the darkness and the light just so I can embrace myself fully. And so that prompted me to do a lot of that exploration, really working with all of those unresolved areas and being able to transform my trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just like that, bada bim, bada boom. I'm sure there's more to that. I want to hear more about that, but let's say hi to some people. So I've got look at Colleen Woodhead is watching us, and she says, hello, beautiful ladies. It's right, and I think she referred to being an empath, and she said it's such a blessing because she's one of those empaths. And let's see. Medea Calantez watching, beautiful, beautiful children's book author. Leslie, Rosemary, Beverly, Morelli. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We're talking to Dr. Cynthia Stone on the miracle of existence. And she's fabulous. Did I forgot to mention that you are also a multiple time nominated best actress award, right? Did I say that right? Multiple times award nominated actress.
It works for me.
That works for me too. And Colleen says, I love learning about your story, Cynthia. Aww. So let's go there. First of all, I want to know, so what did you have to battle? What trauma did you have to face to grow?
Absolutely. A great question. I think that for me, as for a lot of people out there can relate to this, is that I grew up with non-perfect parents. I know, shocking, right? My parents went to the same school that your parents did. Exactly. There is no parenting school out there. And so a lot of times what happens is they do the best job they can with what they have, and they think that they're doing, a great job. And obviously, we turn out the way we do because of choices we make. We are but an accumulation of those choices. Well, as a child, I made the decision based on how I was receiving their discipline, that I was unlovable. And they both grew up in dysfunctional families where love was not really showcased. And so they often say in literature that what you lack as a child becomes the most important thing to you.
Say that again, because there's so much truth to that.
What you lack as a child becomes your driving force. Becomes the most important thing to you. And so for me, growing up without love became the most important thing in the world to me. I just wanted to be the love to serve, to really share the love that I had. And I didn't really know what love looked like because I had made that decision as a child that I was unlovable, unworthy of receiving love. I went from abusive relationship to abusive relationship. But I really realized it when I was in a 10-day silent meditation, sitting there with myself and seeing that the problem wasn't my marriage. The problem was me. Yeah, absolutely. Like that was totally the breakdown that led to the breakthrough, because I had been avoiding that. I had been, feeling as though I was suffocating, married, buried, like the whole thing. Like, why was I dying inside? What was wrong with me? Outwardly, it seemed like we had the perfect relationship. Inwardly, I was dying. And it wasn't about him, blessed be his soul. It's about the fact that I was not loving myself, that I had somehow made a decision along the way that I was unworthy of receiving love. I was blocking that love. I was not being a vessel of my own love. And then I was attracting that, because the bigger your inner critic, the bigger your external critics. You're going to find that the outside world reflects your inside world. And that I was like so mean to myself. And no matter how mean other people might have been to me, I was the ultimate. I was the worst. Like no matter how abusive things were on the outside, I was even worse as an abuser. So what had to happen was my own healing, my own inward journey to be able to resolve that discrepancy, to start seeing myself as worthy of love, to start seeing myself as a blessed, beautiful soul. And that was a huge, huge moment for me.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. Where do you start this journey?
It really starts within. I would say that the beauty of this time for us right now is that for a lot of us, we can't go outside, but we can go inside. And that for most of us, we spend our lives avoiding our internal reality. And that's what causes us to go into all these abusive situations, whether it's, drinking or smoking or, gallivanting, shopping for things you can't afford, whatever it happens to be. We all have our vice. And so what I found was that I have to be able to like my own company. If I can't even be around myself, why would I inflict that on someone else? It comes down to being able to not only be around yourself, but love yourself. And we often hear we should love ourselves, but how many of us actually really break that down? What does that look like? What is that all about? And so for me, I realized that it means not being so critical. It means forgiving myself. It means actually forgiving my parents. It means opening myself up to the fact that I am a divine being, that we're all God's children, and that is so huge, and that we were not created by accidents, that we're here for a reason, that we have gifts to share with the world, that we have, maybe we're not perfect, but who is? That the idea of perfection is not realistic, that we are individuals, not indivisible. But so often we've multiplied ourselves and we've created a false self, a self that doesn't exist, a self where we try to strive to be the best version of ourselves. But in reality, we beat ourselves down because we never reach it. What about accepting yourself as you are right now? And then just taking baby steps every single day to reach that desired level, but to be gentle with yourself and to recognize that you are perfect, whole, and complete.
Ooh. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so true. So for you, Cynthia, uh, as you're helping all these people, in your community, and you're changing lives, deep down inside, you're not like this. Now I'm going back, right? Is that so that you realize that no, you're like deep down inside, you're not really loving yourself. Yeah, and even though you're showing your love to all these other people, you still need to love yourself first. And for a lot of us, this happens this happens all the time, but we don't realize it. How do you know? How do you know if someone's watching this right now? How do they know that they need to change their lives? How do they know? What are they looking for? What are some signs?
Absolutely. A great question. I would say that it comes down to there are areas of your life that you're not happy with. You watching this right now, you're watching it for a reason. There are times in your life where you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be alone. I want to call somebody. I can't stand my own company. That's obviously a clear sign. There are times where you are getting in constant disagreements with your loved ones. What it is in a relationship, it's like an infirmary for your soul. And that is really about the fact that every encounter we have in our life is a holy encounter. And whatever you tend to squabble about is usually a sign of an area of growth that is necessary. As you start to heal your wounds, things will not affect you the same way. So, for example, if you find that you're constantly feeling under attack, like you're being criticized, that's usually a sign that you haven't resolved something from your past, maybe a childhood wound. Maybe you had really critical parents, and that has in turn created a super sensitive part of you so that when people actually say something to you, you immediately go into that trauma. And so it's about releasing a lot of that pain. When you're in pain, it's usually a sign that that's an area of yourself that you need to work on, that I would invite you to address and to be gentle with yourself. We all have these wounds. And the thing is that when we hurt ourselves physically, we give ourselves time. We know, okay, well, if I have a broken leg, I need to give myself so much time and it will mend. But we don't do that with our psychological state.
Oh, so true. Why is that?
Yeah, we tend to, try to push it down, suppress it, go out, ignore it. Oh, this isn't serving me, but it is serving you. Your body knows exactly what it needs to do. Sometimes you're going to have bad days where you just need to cry, and that's okay. There are going to be other times where it comes out as anger, and that's okay. It's just recognizing that you are not your emotions, but your emotions need to pass through you. The reason that we often get attached to our emotions is because we haven't figured out that who we are as individuals. It's almost like when you're a sculptor, and as a child, you're like taking this clay and you're putting a little, I'm not good enough. I don't feel very good about myself. I'm not worthy of love. And then you realize over time that you've forgotten you're the sculptor and you become the piece of the sculpture. And it's really about recognizing that you are the witness, that you don't have to attach yourself to that trauma anymore, that you can step away and you can learn to discern and detach and break through it.
Those are some really, really keyword points you just mentioned. So I want to show you a question from Colleen. How do we know that we need to learn to love ourselves?
Absolutely. It's such a great question. I would say that often what happens in our life is that our outside world reflects our inside world. So if you find that you're consistently in a situation where you're surrounded by people that are pulling you down, it's usually a sign that you're being hypercritical of yourself. And so it's about, really releasing that and forgiving yourself, first of all, and starting to have a healthier, more loving relationship with yourself. If you're in an abusive situation, That's usually a sign of internal abuse as well. How you feed yourself is another symptom of it. If you find that you just, tend to give in to comfort food all the time and you don't really take time to nurture and love yourself, it's usually a sign that you're just like, whatever. I just want to have what feels great, but you're not really appreciating this vessel. And the thing about appreciating our vessel is, like any machine, you want to make sure that you give it the right fuel. That's a sign of self-love. So if you have a car, for example, and it's a nice Corvette, you're not just going to feed it any gas. You're going to want to ensure that the performance is the best it can be. And so a lot of us will just kind of like put in the lowest fuel because we're just like, whatever, like I can't afford that, or I don't deserve that.
It's just a car. Yeah.
It's just a car. But in reality, it's your vehicle for life. This is the miracle of existence. This is what you are inhabiting. This is the costume that you have been lent. And how you choose to invest in that costume is a reflection of how you value it. And so it's,
I just want to jump in because what you just said is so tangible, right? And the way we feed ourselves. And so I look at some moms, for example, who finish what's left on their kids' plates. As they feed themselves. This is what they feed themselves. And we don't really question that because, you're the mom, who cares, right? But it's so true. How much are you loving yourself if you're feeding your body leftovers? Like, how much thought are you putting in that, right? You're so right. This is honestly, it's a very tangible way, like, to look at if you're loving yourself the way you're supposed to. Feed it. How are you feeding your body?
How are you feeding your body? How are you feeding your mind? How are you nourishing your spirit? So a lot of times what happens is we're around people that pull us down rather than lift us up. Like, watch your energy levels. Like, are you being consistently drained? That's usually a sign that you're with people that are toxic, that are bleeding you dry, that are energy vampires. And it's really about being around people that celebrate you, that don't only tolerate you. How are you feeding your mind? We become an accumulation of our thoughts, and our thoughts are discerned by what we feed, what we take into our minds. So if you're constantly inundating yourself with the negative news, CNN, constant negative news, or for example, then that would be a sign that, that can actually promote fear and perpetuate a feeling of helplessness. So you really want to make sure that, yes, you're informed, but you're not inundated. It's about balance. It's about feeding yourself things that will actually raise your vibration, that will make you feel good, that will empower you. So I constantly take in, motivational, audiobooks, things of that nature, inspiration, finding things that fuel my passion. Again, it's about fueling this vehicle. And you're absolutely right, Dela, what you said in terms of, eating the leftovers. Like, even on a plane, when we're crashing down, you hear, don't save your child. Put on your mask first. We need to save ourselves before we can save anyone else. Otherwise, how can you feed someone with an empty tank? You need to be able to have a full cup so that you can pour from that. And I think so often as caregivers, as nurturers, we become so focused on other people, but we have nothing left to give. And then we end up coming from this place of, well, I need to. And then it's not love. It's force. It's coercion. It's tainted. It's loving ourselves first and then emanating that. People will feel that. They will see that. You'll be leading by example.
You touched on something really, really important, and it's called caregiver burnout.
Yes.
Right. And you said that, I mean, especially women, I think we grew up thinking that we are naturally caregivers. So we put everybody else ahead of ourselves. Right. And then at some point, and I'm saying that because that's my own personal experience, that at some point you do start resenting other people because it's like you feel obligated to take care of them. And because you are empty inside, you have nothing to give anymore. So you do it because you have to. And then you become resentful, you become bitter, you become angry, you become, grumpy and pessimistic. And that's not good for anyone, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
That's so true. So true. So, I do want to say hi to the people who have joined us, who have just joined us. I've got Tammy here saying hi. Hi, Tammy. My mama, my mama's always watching. So thank you so much for the people who are watching this beautiful talk we're having with Dr. Cynthia Stone. Now, okay, so going back to addiction, why do you think addiction happens?
I think addiction happens because we are avoiding something within ourselves. I know that when I went through the addiction process, they said that there were as many people that, chose addiction. There were so many different reasons, but really, in all of the work that I've had with people suffering from addictions, it's always come down to, if you truly love yourself, if you truly appreciate your existence, you would not indulge in things that would hurt you. So if you would appreciate the breath of life that you have, would you really be grabbing that toxic cigarette and inhaling that? It comes down to mindfulness. It comes down to appreciating and savoring the moment. If you're truly at peace with who you are, would you be drawn to watch porn at an ongoing level? It would be about, you know what, I appreciate my own company and I'm just sitting here in bliss with what is. And that's what a lot of us are missing in our lives. We haven't started to enjoy our own company, and we seek out things that will take our mind off of it. Okay, so if I go out and I have some drinks, then I don't have to think about, my horrible past or the doomed future. But if we can just be in the moment, at the present time, and just appreciate this gift that we have, the miracle of our existence, then we wouldn't be drawn to have these addictions. Addiction really is about having a habit that is formed. And usually that habit is formed because of something that you are, wanting to avoid within. So when I started on a smoking addiction, I had done it for the sake of a film. I was actually going to play a method actor, smoker, and I didn't want to use the fake stuff. I wanted to be very real.
Authentic.
And I got so into it. Oh my God. I was like, I am this person. And she was like victimized and traumatized. And I became this person. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. This is horrible. And it's amazing what you can allow your imagination to create. And whatever your mind can conceive, you can believe. And then it becomes truth. And so I was like, I was victimized. It was horrible. And I was smoking like crazy. And before I knew it, it had become a habit that had taken over my life. And I was like, what the heck? It's been 3 months and I really want that cigarette. And I'm like, what the heck? This isn't me. And like, thankfully, I got back to this place where I'm like, I love my life. I love who I am. I don't want to hurt my body. But it's amazing what we allow to happen when we don't control our minds and we allow our minds to control us.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So I'm thinking that when we rely on an addiction, let's say whether it's smoking or doing drugs or alcohol, or whether it's watching Netflix for hours at a time, or maybe it's working too hard, overworking yourself, or the long hours at the gym. Like these are all, to me, they're basically the same thing, right? They have different effects on your body, but to me, they're all the same thing. I think, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, that we use these things to hide what is really going on inside.
Absolutely.
Because we don't want to face the reality of what is happening in our mind.
Exactly.
And so it's like, I heard it say like this, it's like putting a Band-Aid
on a gaping wound.
Right?
Yes.
And not really treating it.
100%. Because you know what? A lot of the fitness fanatics that I've counseled, for example, will tell me I can't have 1 ounce of fat. and they'll have this ripped body and they're getting positive reinforcement. And there's always going to be some payoff, right? So it's like, maybe they were obese as children and now they've come through that, but inside they still have that obese child within and they've never really resolved it. And it's about accepting and forgiving and moving on and coming to terms with reality. You nailed it, Dela. Like, it's absolutely about the fact that they haven't come to terms with what is. And they're living either in the past or the future. And so a lot of people had a really great first time. They're like, wow, the first time I did heroin, or the first time I did coke, or the first time I had sex, or whatever it happens to be. And it becomes this perpetual chasing that feeling. But the feeling is never going to be the same. And it becomes all about, because we are inherently pleasure seekers. Everything we do is to derive pleasure. We always want to have pleasure and we want to avoid pain at all costs. But recognizing without pain, we would not know pleasure. Without suffering, we would not know compassion. But there is that duality. And as we come to terms with what is, we can accept what is and move forward powerfully.
You have so much love in you, Cynthia. As you're talking, that just love emanates from you. I want to read a comment and then I have another question. The amazing thing is that it works both ways. You became a different person for a role through relief, and then returned to your true self through belief and mindset. Inspiring. That's awesome. Thank you, Colleen. So when you say that we do anything we do is either to end pain or to bring pleasure, at least that in doing whatever we do, that's what we think, right? So then if we follow that line of thinking, then there are no bad people in this world.
Absolutely.
Because right? Because every single person is doing what they're doing to either relieve their own pain or to bring pleasure to themselves.
I couldn't agree more. I remember when I worked with child molesters. Like I said, I wanted to work with the people that nobody else wanted to work with. And so when I was working with child molesters, most of them were molested as children themselves. And that became how they thought love looked. And it's not to say that that action is forgivable, but it does allow you to see the person within the monster, to see the heart within the human, that we are all God's children and that we all have, this pain that is within us. And we all want to alleviate that suffering. And it's just about having that forgiveness, that compassion, and recognizing exactly that within all of us, there are two wolves, like, are you going to feed the wolf that is hurt and seeking to, really heal that hurt? Or are you going to feed the wolf that's the pleasure seeker? And either way, you're constantly trying to avoid what is.
And the fact that some of us, we do the things we do is lack of information, lack of knowledge.
Absolutely. Right. Most of us are going on autopilot. We have, we're mindless. And that's, really, I think the biggest burden that we carry as humans is that we're not being mindful, that we're just going through the motions on autopilot, that we're not really appreciating. Like, I remember meeting somebody and they were like, as I wash my hair, I say this affirmation, I'm so grateful for my hair. Or like, there's a Sikh custom where every morning they're waking up and they're thanking God from the top of their head all the way to the tips of their feet. And every moment of every day, there's appreciation, gratitude for what they have. I'm like, wow, imagine if we lived our lives like that. But for so many of us, we're like, okay, got to make dinner, got to go to work, got to go do this, that. And it becomes an endless to-do list. And are we ever really present? Are we ever really thinking? Are we ever really there in our bodies?
You chose the topic title, The Miracle of Existence. Why?
I would say that it really comes down to that it does lead into that, because when we are mindful, it allows us to count our blessings. And the more you count your blessings, the more blessings you have to count. That when you start appreciating this breath of life that you've been given, you start realizing that every breath you take counts and it matters. And you start appreciating. I think with the COVID happening right now, we're being bombarded with the fragility of life. And once we start recognizing that our very presence here is a miracle and that we were born winners. I mean, think about it. Like, we beat out all those other sperm to be here. Hello?
It's true.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's pretty impressive, you know?
It is very impressive.
Yeah, we got to celebrate that, you know? And look at how many times we fell on our faces as kids. Like, we were trying to get up, do the walking thing, and we fell down so many times. And, you know, if we had been an adult doing that, we would have been like, peace out, I'm done. I tried 99 times, I'm done. But then as kids, we're just like, we're unstoppable. We're like, I'm going to get this. And now look at us. We're walking, we're running, we're jumping, we're leaping, we're taking the stairs. I mean, that's a pretty complicated thing.
Some of us do all those things.
Yeah. I mean, some of us do it better than others, but you know, it's really about celebrating these successes along the way. I think so many times we rob ourselves of these joys, of these simple miracles that happen. And as you become aware of the miracle of life, it opens you up to be a miracle magnet. And you start seeing all the miracles, all the reasons to be grateful. But I think that so often we have surrounded ourselves with so much negativity because of what we're taking in. I mean, we are an accumulation of everything we take in, everything you feed your body. That's why we have, you know, the illnesses. So as you start, you know, watching your healthy eating, then you start creating a healthier environment for yourself. But what about our mental health? You know, what about feeding our minds the right kind of things? And that will shape our reality. That will change things. You know, the paradigm that you're operating in is going to shift as you start shifting. Shift happens, you know, it's really about recognizing that, you know, you don't have to look at, I mean, how are you defining life? You know, for some people, I've talked to them and they're like, life is really hard.
Life sucks.
Yeah, life sucks. If the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off, folks. You know, come on. You know, like, have some brevity. You know, I look at life as a game, and as you know the rules, you start enjoying the process. You know, how you define life will actually change your whole view on life. You know, so if you look at it as, or how are you defining yourself is another thing. Like, oh, for me, making money is really hard. Well, are you working in a mint? Because if you're not working in a mint, you're not making money. You're earning money. And, you know, if you're having, you know, it's all about how you look at things. As you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So start, I invite you, anybody watching this, start shifting your reality. Start embracing a new worldview. If this one isn't serving you, if you find that you are dreading the next day, that the alarm clock, no matter how many alarm clocks you put out there, they're not waking you up because you just have no desire to get up, then maybe it's time to shift things. Because you know what? There's no alarm clock in the world. You can put 20 alarm clocks in a morgue. See how many of those guys wake up. It's not about the alarm clock. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to start jumping to our feet and thanking the Lord, or whatever you happen to believe in, for your life, for this opportunity to give back. I mean, there are certain skills inside of you that you are like, how do I have this? Like, when I went into acting, I didn't have a clue about acting. I was like, what the heck is this? But it was something inside of me that was able to come out. It was a gift from whatever you want to choose to believe in. That was given to me. And then I was able to share that with the world. And it was just so beautiful. And within all of us are those very gifts that we can't explain it. We didn't go to school for it. We didn't go anywhere for it, but it's just within us. And you have within you dreams, you know, those little glimpses in your head that you're like, oh, I would love to do that. No, that's not realistic. And then you go back to your drudgery and your wage slavery. You hate your life. You hate your wife. Well, in reality, is that really how you want to live? You know, I am reminded of a story where there was this guy, and maybe you can relate to this one, Dela. There was this guy, and he was so miserable. He was like, oh my gosh, I hate my life. I hate my wife. And so he went to the bar. And he was like, you know what? I have time for one drink. I'm going to do this. And he was like, all right. He drinks the one drink, and he's kind of like a monk in this way. A lot of drunks are. They're timeless. So before you know it, it's one drink, it's two drinks, it's 10 drinks, it's last call, and he is stumbling out of there. He's like, yo, peace out. Next thing you know, he falls headfirst into a rose bush, gets up, he's covered in blood at this point. He goes into his house, and thankfully his wife is asleep because he was supposed to be home ages ago. And he wipes himself off. He puts on all the bandages. He goes to bed. She wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning, throws a bucket of ice on him. And she's like, what the heck? I told you, I thought you weren't drinking anymore, all this stuff. And he was like, holy cow, woman, what's going on? And so she said, I thought you were done. He's like, I only had one drink. She grabs him by the shirt. She's like, I don't believe you. He's like, why would you say that? She brings him to the bathroom. And sure enough, all the bandages that were meant for his face were on the mirror. And that's the thing, is that we always try to fix our outer world rather than fix our inner world. Inside all of us is the opportunity that we can fix, we can actually start fixing ourselves so that we don't end up putting all these bandages on the outside world.
That's hilarious. And it's so true. Oh my gosh, that speaks to me so much. Okay. Now you go to a 10-day meditation, silent meditation. I think, what is that? Is that Vipassana? Is that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So I've never done that, but I hear that a lot of people go there and they come out just totally, right? Yeah. Awakened. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Oh, absolutely. Now, the first 3 days are excruciating. After the third day, if you can get past that, you are golden. But most people will throw in the towel before the third day. And I saw people that were crack addicted, that were like having episodes. Like, it's unbelievable, because what has happened is when you're forced to be with yourself. I mean, why is solitary confinement the worst form of punishment? And that's kind of what you're signing up for here. Solitary confinement. You have to be around yourself. You have to start tolerating your own company. And oh my goodness, can that be absolutely disheartening and frustrating and brutal? Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, most of us were like, I don't want to hang around myself. I'm going to go hang out with him. And what makes you think he wants to hang out with you when you don't even like yourself? But that's what happens, is that we happen to do this, and it's like, okay, come on, people. We got to start loving ourselves. It starts there. And so that's what this is all about. It's forcing you to be around your own company. And that little inner voice? Well, mine went from being quiet and polite to full on yelling at me. That was my experience. It was,
what were you thinking, bringing me?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, can we crank this down? I'm like, is anybody else hearing this? Because it was extreme, like, holy cow. And, that's often, people talk about the intuition, the divine voice, God whispering in your ear, whatever you happen to believe. Mine was yelling at me, and I'm like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. And the message was not one I was comfortable with, because at that point, I was in my marriage and I was being advised, yelled at, to leave him. And I was like, oh my gosh, how could I possibly do that? Because in my culture, being, a nice little Jewish lass, I was told that like my parents modeled for me. They were married for 35 years at this point, like, you don't just go and up and leave, but when the wedding ring becomes a suffering, that's when right? So I was just like, what? If I'm suffering this much, chances are he is as well, because it's not an individual process. Obviously what happens to one, it affects the other. And I was like, by me living there in that constant state of despair and suffering, I am not only hurting myself, but I'm hurting him. And I really want to allow us both to be free to find the people that we need to be with. Well, no one needs to be with anything. Let me rephrase that. The person that would delight in being with you. Because you know what? Once you come to a place of self-love, when love comes knocking at your door, you'll be like, I already got some, thanks. You're going to like your own cake, but you won't mind a little frosting. But at that point, I was in a situation where there was a lot of codependency, and that is not healthy. All those songs that we're growing up with, like, I can't breathe without you. What do you mean? You've been breathing your whole life. What are you talking about? So when you start actually looking at these things And so I started really listening to that voice. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to leave him. Like, this is crazy. How, and I couldn't even believe I was entertaining this thought, and not just entertaining it, like actually putting serious, consideration into it. And then I was like, okay, higher power, what am I going to do? What is my purpose here? And then as I'm leaving the Vipassana meditation center, and this is a place where there's no cell phone service, where you're in silence, and people are like, I can't even believe you were silent for 10 minutes, let alone 10 days. But yeah, I was, and so it was crazy. So I was leaving there, and my phone rings, and it's a guy named Moses. You want to talk about a sign? I was like, are you kidding me? What the heck, Moses? Like, are you serious right now? And it was unbelievable. And he's telling me that I have a movie role in Zimbabwe. And I'm like, what? I didn't apply for a movie in Zimbabwe, but cool. I always wanted to go to Africa, but what the heck is going on? And the Lord works in mysterious ways. So I was just like, totally, right? You hear an angel singing? Yeah, so I was just like, this is totally wild. How does this even happen? And it turns out somebody I was friends with that I did a movie with moved to Hollywood, who's winning awards. And then she told him about me. And next thing I know, I'm being considered for this grand movie role, a lead. So I was just like, this is amazing. And I ended up, going on that plane. And I knew that once I got on that plane, the hovercraft that was my husband, or husband.
Did you just make that up?
No, I heard it once, but I heard that if you use it often enough, then it becomes your own. You're welcome to use it. So that's yours. I share it with the audience. Yes. Oh, right, exactly. So I was like, oh my goodness. So once I told him about that, he wasn't too happy with that idea. And I knew that that would be the key. And then we were just going to part ways. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And you know what? I truly do wish him all the best. I know that for me, that movie was all about the liberation of Zimbabwe, but it was also about my liberation and finding my wings. And going on that flight was just unbelievable. The minute I hit African soil, I felt like I was home. And it's really about coming home, coming back to what is and to what makes you happy and what satisfies your soul. So for you watching out there, if you're afraid to make that move, you're afraid to step into the unknown, faith is all about taking that first step, even if you don't see the full staircase. That, you know what, it often people say it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. Well, really, what is known? What is true? What is trusted? Like, anything can happen at any point. You can do the stable job and be miserable all the days of your life, or you can step into the unknown and follow your dreams wherever they may lead and believe that you have what it takes to succeed. Because ultimately, if you have that dream inside of you, there is something there. There's, that's a divine whisper, that, and when you align with the divine, you can silence your mind. You can start living your truth. And that was what the Vipassana retreat was all about for me, was stepping into my truth and aligning with that divine and just allowing my mind to quiet and to start listening to what is. I was there in the Vipassana center, and the first 3 days were really weird because you had mentioned the Netflix marathon. I was never one to really watch a lot of TV, but for whatever reason, I was so miserable. I was just trying to avoid reality. So I ended up on these marathons. I think I was watching Sons of Anarchy or something like that. So to give you a timeline there. And I ended up seeing the entire series while I was in the meditation center, the entire series. And I was like, wow, we really are an accumulation of whatever we take in. And your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So I was exposing myself to violence. And I had created a violent state within myself. And now I'm so careful about what I watch. I can't even watch that stuff anymore. I'm just completely if it doesn't serve me, if it doesn't light up my spirit, sorry, you guys can enjoy. I'm going to go out there and live with the birds.
I'm with you. I totally believe that what we feed our minds totally rules us. I think our mind is so powerful. What made you choose to go to that 10-day retreat?
Yeah, that was another story, because I was at a point where I was just praying, please God, hear this, because I didn't know what to do. I was at a breaking point where I wanted to end it all. Like but I didn't think I could actually go through with it. But I felt like I was dying so much that I didn't want to go on like that anymore. I didn't know what to do. Like I was just like literally at that breaking point. And so I turned it over to a higher power. And just like that, it was answered. I ended up getting a call or a message from some girl I haven't heard from in like a year and a half or something. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, girl, I just went on the most amazing thing." And she doesn't sound like that. I don't know why I'm giving her that voice, but I was just like, "What?" And she was talking to me about some Vipassana. I'm like, "What's that?" And at this point in my marriage, like I was very much like, I wasn't really given ample time to go out with people or like really have that kind of outlet. But the fact that it was like a silent meditation with just a bunch of other chicks, he was like, "Oh, well, you want to do that? You're weird, but sure, go for it." He didn't really have anything to say about that. And so it was like the perfect answer. And really, everything you're searching for is within. We have everything we need coming into this world. And we get confused and we think we have to get this title and this boat and this house and this husband and all these things. But in reality, everything you need is within you. The kingdom of heaven resides within. And so I didn't know that. And I didn't know that this would be such an uplifting, empowering, amazing, mind-blowing, life-altering experience. I just thought, okay, cool. I got a get out of jail free card and I'm going to do that for 10 days. And sure enough, it was a get out of the prison that I had made of my life moment.
Amazing. And that's how exactly things come your way. I that's what I've noticed too in my own life is when you actually surrender to a higher power and say, okay, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
I accept that I no longer am in control. So can you take over and just show me the way?
Absolutely.
And then that's when things happen. People come your way, and doors open, and next thing you know, this person is introducing you to this, and this thought that I mean, write a book. Write a book. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like things like that. And it's like someone says, "Oh, start Dela's voice." Dela's voice. I could never do that. But things like that do happen is when you open up to a higher power. I totally am with you, Cynthia. This is amazing. If I ask you to define the word gratitude.
Mm.
So I don't want a meaning, but what it means to you in your life, because I'm a big, big believer of gratitude attitude. So I would love to hear your take. And you touched on that a little bit earlier, but let's go for it.
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, gratitude is really about cultivating that state of appreciation within, appreciation for what is, counting your blessings. And like I had noted, the more you count your blessings, the more you have to count. It's really about celebrating the miracles that exist every single day, the miracles of life, the miracles that you are. It's about appreciation, but a deep appreciation, a deep knowing that, this life that we have is called the present for a reason. It really is a gift. And I think so many of us squander that gift or we try to return to sender. We don't really cash it in and take advantage of all of that. We become more consumed with this device than we do this device. And as you start cracking into what is and start appreciating the miracle that you are, it starts really cultivating that attitude of gratitude within. You start appreciating every moment. You start appreciating the little things, which aren't even so little. Like I had said, we are, beating out all these sperm when we come in. We've been able to conquer the walking challenge. We've been able to overcome so many things. All the decisions that we've made have led us to where we are. And also all the decisions we haven't made has led us to where we are. And you start appreciating, like, I burned myself the other day and it's healing. It's healing rapidly. Like, I'm just so grateful, like that without even, putting anything on it necessarily, we heal because that's our natural body's tendency, that we have been giving these miracles, that the bruises we get will go away, that the bones will mend, that, while we might get some acne, it doesn't stay there forever, like all these different things is just like recognizing that, everything that's happened in our life has made us who we are. And like photography, we can develop from the negatives, that we don't have to allow the negatives to draw us down, that they have become building blocks for who we are, that they've given us wisdom, that every lesson has given us a blessing as well. And that all of that combined creates that attitude of gratitude, that deep appreciation for what is, and that utmost gratitude is what I carry with me each and every day.
Woo! Awesome. This has worked for me. The gratitude attitude, it has been the first step to changing my life, to bringing joy back into my life. So I love talking about gratitude, and the fact that you believe in it so much just means a lot more to me. When you meet someone, and you're a coach, you're a relationship coach. When you meet someone, what are some of the first few tools that you suggest they take on?
I know this is going to sound shocking, but self-love. Yeah, I mean, honestly, everything stems from self-love. Like once you love yourself, you're going to find that you are going to start, being more careful with who and what you allow into your head office, so to speak. The 6 inches between your ears. This is like prime real estate, folks.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly it. And then like you start doing some renovation, you're like, I'm going to like, that's right. You're going to see the door there, buddy. So is that your amigo? I'm starting to have some new people in charge. You start being more careful with who you allow to govern you, like who you start listening to. You start trusting your own intuition more. And, you're not necessarily going to be so easily manipulated by people. Like I find that sometimes we give over our car keys to somebody else and they start driving us towards their dreams. But in reality, we need to be in charge of our own dreams. And as you start loving yourself, you give yourself permission to do those things. You start taking the car keys. You start guiding yourself. You start trusting your own inner wisdom. And that's so huge because quite frankly, like, a lot of us, we're taking advice on how to be rich from broke people. Like we need to be so careful with who we listen to and who we allow to influence ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the greatest people that we can take our advice from is from within. But actually have that wisdom. We have everything we need. And when you allow yourself to be in that silence, to be in your own company, you'll be amazed what you hear. And so often we try to avoid that, but that's what we're looking for. And we may not like the answers, but quite frankly, are you happy with where your life is going when you're not listening to the answers? Mm-hmm. And you start listening to other people and they're taking you farther and farther away from where you need to be.
Yes. And that's the thing, right? If you've been doing this thing you call your own life, oh, it's my life, I do whatever, and it's not working, like ask yourself that question. How is that working out for you?
Exactly.
Right? And if it's not working out for you, you only have the one person to look at for answers, and that's you. I totally appreciate that. I always talk about the 3 A's of recovery, and I call them my AAA success formula. And they go like this. I know. First A is for admit that there's something not working in your life right now. Something is wrong. Something is the issue, right? The second A is for ask the right people for help, like hire a coach, right? Ask for help, ask for support. And the third A is act, take actions, because ultimately you're the only one who can change things. So that's my AAA formula.
I love that.
I know it works for everything. Every time, right? Cynthia, I want to give you a few more minutes to finish this talk. Leave the audience with what you want. What are some words that you want to leave everybody with today?
Absolutely. I want to say that absolutely, you are listening to this for a reason. You watching it right now, you listening, this is not an accident. That deep within, you know that you have not been living up to your utmost potential, and that's okay. It's about recognizing where you want to be and where you're at right now, and to be gentle with yourself, to recognize that, you don't have to be so hard on yourself, that you are here for a reason, and that reason is there to serve you. that your very presence in this world is a miracle. And just by you going through what you've gone through, you can be an inspiration to someone else. That your story can become a source of inspiration for someone else. That you can turn your story into glory. That you can transform your trauma and make sure that your issues don't get lost in tissues. That you can use those tears and build yourself up and face your fears, recognizing that ultimately you have everything you always needed within. And just to turn within and recognize all of the resilience, all of the strength, all of the wisdom, all of these experiences have turned you into the amazing being you are right now. You are loved and you are loved. And if you allow that love in, you will find that your whole world will transform, that you will become a blessing to others as you allow yourself to become a blessing to you. Just recognize how precious and amazing you truly are. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
So much. You're awesome, Cynthia. I just love it. And you have a flair when you talk. I think you like rhyming too.
That's
And
what comes out. I'm like, okay.
I love it. I just love you so much. You're so much fun to talk to, and you're just full of life, and you bring so much fun to the talk. I want to thank you for giving me your time today and giving your audience, the viewers, your time, sharing so much knowledge so generously. Thank you. And people can reach you at the website that's kind of going by right down there. www. It's the other way, Cynthia. It's the other way.
There we go. Yeah.
Funny. www.cynthias360.com. reach her and work with her. If it's not working, seek for help. I love you. Thank you. And I want to have you back again soon.
I would love that.
That would be fantastic. And for everyone who's tuned in today, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for the commitment you show, the support that you show to Dela's voice. And I appreciate that. Please don't forget to press that like button and and share this talk with your loved ones so they can benefit from all of this energy that Cynthia gave us today. And I want to thank you for joining us today. As always, this was Dela's voice, hoping to spark your soul. I love you. Till next time. Mwah!